WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
I'm going to start hitting the recording button so that way everybody knows what we're talking about before you start talking. Go ahead, sir.
Oh shit, we already on?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, let me hit this thing. La la la. Welcome to West Virginia Commonplace. I really should have stopped doing an intro because we have an intro. I do need to change the intro, and I apologize to everyone. I'm going to be changing it in my next free time because it says some stuff in it that I should have got it. I should have checked with Stacey.
It just doesn't make sense for your podcast.
Yeah, and that funky beat, that boom boom.
So if anybody would like to help us out and they want to record any type of introduction for us, let us know. We'll probably work something out. We're always open to suggestions.
Always open. Now, all that banter out the way, and I stole that from King German them because they do that. So we've got an amazing topic to talk about today.
Yes.
So I'm going to do one of these spiels because I talk a lot, so I'm just going to make it real quick. I'm a movie buff. And ever so often, there comes a month, which is February, Black History Month. So let's throw that out the window real fast because I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. This episode will be a triggering episode. I need everyone to be responsible with whoever you are, whoever you are.
I'm going to just say it like this. Not everything is serious. Please do not get offended by this. Anything that we talk about. If you are the type of person that gets easily offended, please just skip this episode. Because if you're that type of person, you're gonna get butt hurt. So I appreciate that you sit there and you listen to us and that you support us, but your best option right now is to go ahead and fast forward to the end, probably about a minute, and we will talk to you in our final closing thoughts.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And wholeheartedly is one of those phrases that is cliche, it's nostalgic, and it holds its value. Now, real quick, this movie we're about to talk about is a Walt Disney movie. Walt Disney, as a whole, has tons of movies that they put in the vault. Walt Disney takes movies at a time. They would release them at a certain time, and then they would go back in the Disney vault for 20 years or 30 years.
Right.
We'll discuss that in just a moment.
Right.
Now, the movie we're about to talk about is Song of the South. Song of the South, to most people...
And that's not the country song.
Not the country song, Song of the South. The most relevant thing that anybody can think of from this movie is Splash Mountain and the song Zippity Doo-Dah, Zippity Day. My oh my, what a wonderful day. Now, Disney, please do not sue us. We are not putting any part of this in there. We're not going to tell you how we obtain copies of the movie. I'm just going to say this.
Well, it is available for purchase on DVD. I found that you can just Google that and you can buy it off of Amazon or anywhere. So that's where we purchased our copy, was Amazon.
Now, the one thing that I do need to clarify, Disney personally has never released this movie in any home video format in the United States. This film has not been available on its streaming platform either. So when you do find these recreations anywhere, that's what they are. They are recreations. This movie has been put in the vault for over 77 plus years. Might be 74. And this is me. I'm an African American male. This movie has racial overtures in it that some people deem offensive. There's portions of how certain type of black exploitation with the way the verbiage is, how the people speak, and how their mannerism is as African Americans in this movie that will trigger some people. Some people will think of this as a slave driving type movie, not in the realm of the Django type stuff, but you'll still have an old down south feel to it that if you are not careful with and you take this movie too seriously, you will be offended.
Right.
It has things in it. It is, to my standard, it's a fine movie to watch because unless you understand or know about the history of the South, you wouldn't have any issue with the movie. If you don't fully understand, and this is just my opinion, the history of the South and the mannerisms and the way that the voices are, then you probably won't see anything wrong. So for the experience of this, and this is, like I said, this is not something that is widely distributed. Like, Stacey was able to find DVD copies that were out there, or Blu-ray copies, but those are official copies. Someone has made those.
Probably.
Yeah, because Disney has stated clearly that they don't want you to see this. But the odd thing is that they won awards on this, on Zippity Doodah, and Mr. Baskett, which is Uncle Remus, he got an honorary Oscar for his performance as Uncle Remus. Or Academy Award, I'm sorry. And they got an Academy Award for Best Original Song.
Right. So my take on this, like you warned me, this is a controversial show, and you can pull that up on Google and you can see it states on there, you know, this is probably one of the most controversial Disney shows that has ever been created. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I mean, whatever. But the thing that you warned me, I mean, you didn't really warn me, but the thing that you stated to me going into this was, this is not really how people of color acted during this time. Like, and that was the thing that you said that most upset people, was because the way that the voices were, and just in general. So I went in with an open mind, and that's what everybody needs to do. You need to go in with an open mind, realize that this is just TV. It's just a TV show. It's not like it was based off of history. It's not like it was a documentary out there. It's not like Disney was out there saying, oh, hey, this is how we see people of color. Like, that's not what happened. So when I was watching it, I didn't get, I mean, I have no right to be offended, but I didn't feel where there was any type of issue. Like, I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was cute. I thought it was funny at times, you know? And I like the way that Uncle Remus helped the little boy.
And I like that too. One thing about this is that this time period for this movie was the Reconstruction era. And if you don't know what that was a period of American history before slavery was completely abolished, but it was at the end of the American Civil War. So if you know anything about history, and you know that, you know, basically in this instance, it's probably only been 20 years of actual freedom from slavery, or it could be anywhere between 10 to 15 years. So there's a lot of plantations still out there. And this is deep South Georgia. This is a family visiting from Atlanta to their old plantation. So that right there, those kind of things get people wrapped up nowadays in being socially correct and stuff like that, and not to get canceled by anybody. Just being careful with all that. Me watching it again, and mind you, I have not seen this movie since, I don't even know how I seen it back then when I seen it, but I seen this movie back in the late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, like we said, somebody could have just recorded it off the TV, because people used to record stuff off the TV.
Right.
But the actual movie, the first movie to have live action and animation.
Right.
This movie should be revered and should be loved because it pioneered most of what everybody watches today.
Right. Cancel culture is so strong right now, and people get offended by everything, that you can't have something good.
Right.
if, like I said, if you go in with an open mind and you understand that this is just a movie, it's just a movie, then you're fine. If you're going in with the thought of, oh, this is the most controversial TV show Disney has ever released because it makes fun of people of color, then yeah, you're going to get offended by the show. So you have to go in with an open mind and realize it's just a TV show. It's just a movie. I'm not going to get offended by this because that's not, I mean, we don't know this for sure, but that's not the point of the movie.
Right. And the history behind it, the only thing that bothers me on Disney's account is Disney has hidden this.
Right.
Disney has made a purpose.
But do they have any other choice?
But here's the thing, and we're talking about Disney. We're here in Orlando right now.
Right.
We don't actually have the actual facts for how long Splash Mountain's been around.
Right.
But if this movie was so bad, and this is where it comes in as me as a black person, where I'm going to put my input in here. If the movie was so bad, then why make Splash Mountain? Why hide this movie, but you take that one clip for Zippity Doo-Dah, Zippity Day? Because anybody that's ever rode on Splash Mountain knows when you go through that tunnel, you see that footage.
Because that's the footage of the animation. It has nothing, it does, I've never ridden Splash Mountain.
It had Uncle Remus on it.
Oh, okay.
Remus in it, yeah. So it had him in the animation, so it's like...
Do you think that because he was in it, that's why they put it out there? Like... And this is just me asking questions because I'm obviously very white, so I don't know. I'm just curious.
So from the persuasion, it's what has happened with our culture for so many years. Our entertainment value, they're going higher on than the morale, or being right about themselves. So my issue here is so Disney, you want to shun the movie, which actually gave a black person their first Academy Award, a song that won you an Academy Award, because they weren't doing no big business before this. I mean, They did whatever they did, but this is something that, in some grain of salt, saved Disney. You know, you can capitalize on one part, but the rest of it you want to throw away.
All right.
And
I understand that part, yeah.
So that part, that's the only part that angers me as a black man, that angers me as whatever. You're going to capitalize on the shucking job that I do when I put the face paint on and dance for you. But the meat and the grit of this movie, there was nothing in this movie that was intentional or hard that harmed anybody. It was actually a feel-good movie. You sat there and watched it, and you're an attention deficit person. Like you sat there and watched it and put down your stuff, and you were entertained.
Right.
It wasn't.
And that it is all how you perceive it. Like I said, you have every right to be offended by anything that happened around this movie because you are a person of color. I'm not. So, like, I couldn't get offended by anything on here. It has nothing to do with me. Whatever. I mean, the rich family is white. And they have a black lady as their nanny. And then they come in and you have the people working in the field, and Uncle Remus is black.
And then you have one poor white family, them redheads.
Right, but they put in the poor family. The poor family is white. It doesn't show any type of abuse, any type of, hey, you know, this is how it used to be and this is how it still is. But like you said, at that time, things were still transitioning. So what did they expect to put in there? Like, and that's what I'm asking. Like, right. I'm not assuming, and I'm not putting any judgment on any of this stuff, but this is what I'm asking you as a white person that has no idea what's going on.
Like,
you know?
To me, it was a cash cow. It was basically like, and this is the best example. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll understand this. That one time Kofi Kingston won the WWE title. It was because we hadn't had a legitimate black champion, and this is the best example I can use for this because this makes it understandable and relatable. Before Kofi Kingston, it was Booker T. And then after Booker T, there was nobody in between there.
Right.
There was Ron Simmons before him. So what they do with the culture is they took this movie And Disney read the screenplay because they have to read it before they option it to give it money to even come out.
Right.
And they were like, "This is going to bring in the dollars."
Right.
Now.
And you said sometimes that the way that the voice sounds could be construed as racism.
Right.
But I've heard people talk like that. I'm not saying everybody does. I've heard some white people with some thick accents like that.
Right, but the intelligence in what they're saying.
Okay.
Because I'm talking like this now, but if you see me in the movie with Uncle Remus, you're going to hear me talk a little like this, and it's going to change, and my voice is going to sound like this, and this is what I'm selling to you, and this is what Disney wanted to see.
Right, but what I'm saying is that's not the only place I've seen it, and we haven't canceled those shows.
Right. But like I said, but in this instance...
Right.
And this is Disney.
Like, I understand.
Yeah.
And then this isn't us arguing or me fighting with him. It's me trying to understand everything.
And this is something that's really logical that you think about. This racism that was made from this and that was constructed was made by white people.
Exactly. That's the point. Or not the point. That's the statement that I needed you to say.
Right. So this...
Because you've said this many times to me. It's not...
Black people at all.
It's...
White people.
Yeah.
White people construct this quick racism because they've seen two things. They saw dollar signs and they found an exit plan. Mm-hmm. Because if you make it racist, they got what they wanted, which they got Splash Mountain.
Right.
Which was made years later. I'm talking almost 40 years later, almost 30 to 40 years later. Splash Mountain came out in at least the late 80s, early 90s, probably.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up here. Opening date, October 2nd, 1992.
All right, so if it was 1992 and this movie came out in 1948...
50 years later.
50 years later.
Right.
So that's where if someone makes a publicity stunt, which they did out of this, and, Splash Mountain's leaving now as we speak.
It's already closed, I think. They took the last ride. And people out here really selling money. Or not selling money. Selling daggone water from Splash Mountain. Like, that's ridiculous.
That's crazy. But go
pour some tap water and pretend that's what it is.
Right. So the major thing is, what this is that Disney knew their cash cow. They knew, let's take the song that we got an Academy Award for, and let's break it into the future, but let's not talk about the movie. Let's not talk about her fault. Let's not admit that we made a mistake somewhere.
Right.
And that's where, when it's been facilitated, regurgitated, and then put into a new package and presented to people of color or anything, that's something that was manufactured by some white men after this movie came out or before it came out. They knew that this would be money. They knew it would be controversial. And then they knew at the end of the day that they would still make $1 off the back of it with no problem. Right.
And you can find a lot of information on Wikipedia. You can type in Song of the South and they will give you a little more detail than what we're going on. This is just our opinions and what we think. This is no way related to Disney or their opinions and views on this movie. Nothing has come directly from them. Like I said, this is just our opinion and we wanted to review the show.
Yes, wholeheartedly on that one because that's my catchphrase. And, not to make this a lengthy deal or nothing, I like the actual idea that we did black and white on this.
Right.
You watch this from an open perspective.
Yes.
And with your knowledge of what you know and what you've seen, and you've been around the African American culture for quite some time.
Yep.
You could see where we're getting to this notion, and the whole theme of this episode, manufactured racism.
Right.
Is real.
Right. I feel like if a person of color is offended by this movie, you have every right to be. But if a white person is offended by this movie, you need to go suck your big toe.
And my reason behind it...
Sorry.
My reason for agreeing, and I'll state it like this because mine's a little bit more liberal.
Right.
The Caucasian persuasion in this marketing of this...
Right.
We all know that it took a turn for the worse because they realized that they couldn't reuse it.
Right.
But they thought 50 years hard on it and put it into Splash Mountain.
Right. And there might be some number mess ups there because I did see something about 1989.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Don't quote us on numbers. That's what Google's
either way,
for.
we're going to say at least a whole 30-year stretch of running Splash Mountain, and Zippity Doo-Dah. And Zippity Doo-Dah has been included in other little movie shorts that I've seen, because you actually can, that's what people can say in their life. They've seen that little Zippity Doo-Dah, Zippity Day part.
Right. Like, I remember hearing that, but I've never seen the movie.
Right. And it's usually in an excerpt that they do, and if they don't do an excerpt, it's got something to do with Brer Rabbit.
Yeah.
So, in closing, I will say this. Song of the South is a movie that should be a Criterion Classic. It should hold a high regard in every movie buff's catalog.
And I think Disney should release it on Disney Plus.
Or if they don't release it there, they need to release it in a physical format so that you can actually own it.
Right, yeah. But Disney Plus would open it up to people. If you're offended by it, don't watch it.
True.
Like, I'm gonna be hard on that. That's my opinion. You can't get offended by something that has nothing to do with your culture. If it is not related to you or directly affects you, sit down. Mind your business.
And I thank you for that. So in closing, if you have not seen Song of the South, obtain it in whatever method you need.
That is your discretion, not ours.
At your discretion. And in part solely, Disney did not influence, have anything to do with any part of us watching, recreation, or any thought of even putting out this material. I'm putting out this material for the simple fact of this. In our culture, we're so sensitive with race issues. And we don't deal with a lot of race stuff. We're an interracial couple, but we don't see race. When I go places and she goes places, the only thing that makes us different from anyone, and this even goes in podcasting, is just the way that I hold my microphone. That's the only difference.
So, we would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you're one of the ones that had to fast forward, we appreciate you taking that step and knowing what you can handle and what you cannot handle. We would love to invite you to send us your reviews on this movie. If we missed something, or you don't understand the way maybe we worded something, or if we said anything incorrectly, if you guys got some proper dates or anything like that, send us a message. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, so please follow us on all of those. Help us get our numbers up. Like I said, it's free to do all of that stuff. You can create free accounts on everything. We are available on any streaming platform. Spotify, Apple, Google. We're even on iHeartRadio.
Definitely.
And so make sure you give some of our other episodes a listen. We hope we didn't offend anybody too much. If you did, I apologize. That's just how I am. So thank you for listening.
And I'm JR.
I'm Stacey. Have a good night.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at oncommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.